good day, good morning. Um, Welcome everybody to this exciting session, which is the AADA Q3 Fireside Chat. I think this is our fourth Fireside Chat out of a series that we've been doing every quarter since last year, end of last year. For those who may not know, the African Actuarial Development Academy is a non-profit organization that was set up to continue the great work that is being done by quite a number of institutions developing the actuarial profession in Africa. So as African actuaries, we've come together to really see what we can do together. I don't want to stand in between you and a very exciting sort of chat. So, as you may have seen already in the poster, today we have our guest speaker, Thomas Njeru, who's the Group CEO of Pula, as our chief guest. He will be interviewed by Jay Kosgei, who's a principal actuary at Zamara. So they're not new to each other. They actually apparently went to university together and also to high school, as I understand it. So they're both fellows of the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries, but let me maybe just speak about their bios specifically. So Jay is a fellow of the Actuarial Society of Kenya and the IFOA, as well as the Nigerian Actuarial Society. He's a principal actuary at Zamara Group and has provided actuarial advice to a range of insurance companies, national health care insurers, regulators, and industry associations across Africa. Jay also has regulatory experience, having worked with the Insurance Regulatory Authority in Kenya, and is a qualified accountant with previous finance and assurance experience. Then Thomas Njeru is also a qualified actuary, Institute and Faculty of Actuaries and Actuarial Society of Kenya. He's a seasoned insurance professional, entrepreneur, and actuary who is passionate about bringing different approaches to solutions in emerging markets. He was visionary and Times 100 Next in 2024. Since co-founding Pula in 2017, Thomas has driven its growth to provide insurance to over 20 million beneficiaries across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Previously, Thomas was the insurance director in Deloitte East Africa and served as the chief actuary at UAP Old Mutual Insurance Group East Africa. So as I mentioned, he's a fellow of the Institute of Faculty of Actuaries and also holds an MBA and a BSc First Class Actuarial Science. Besides solving the insurance-related challenges in emerging markets, which I think we'll hear a lot about today, his other interests include running, traveling, economic development, philosophy, and chess. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Jay, who's our moderator. For those who may not know, my name is Njeru, one of the co-founders of AADA. My co-founder, Yvonne Palm, is also here. And I think yesterday sends her greetings in absentia. So over to you, Jay, and thanks again for everyone attending. Welcome.
Thank you, Mukami. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Bon après-midi, Madame et Messieurs, French-speaking colleagues, and welcome to this fireside chat with Thomas Njeru. As Mukami has mentioned, I'm privileged to have this conversation or chat with Thomas, having known him for more than 25 years. As Mukami mentioned, Thomas and I went to high school together, the Great Mangu High School in Kenya, and we also studied in university together, and both of us are qualified actually. So Thomas, welcome to this fireside chat, and excited to have you here, Thomas.
Thanks, Jay. You're exposing our age, 25 years. Everyone is surprised. Did we meet at birth?
Indeed. But yeah, happy to have you, and happy to have you share your experiences, your thoughts, and your vision about not just the profession, but also what actuaries can do sort of within the wider fields, Thomas. So yes, we've structured our fireside chat in a couple of sort of segments. Of course, the first one speaks to your sort of journey and how it has influenced your leadership at Pula so far. So maybe you can start by just taking us through your actuarial journey and how that prepared you essentially to be a co-founder and CEO, group CEO at Pula.
Thanks a lot, Jay. So of course, first is the undergraduate at University of Nairobi. That's how my relationship with the actuarial profession started. And then I joined UAP. When I joined UAP, I think I was the first actuarial person. So my job was first, of course, to set up the department and start developing or showing value of the actuarial profession to the entity, which was very exciting and challenging at the same time, because you didn't have anyone to guide you. So your guide was your actuarial notes. So a bit of imposter syndrome there. But later it came to help in many ways, and I'll come to that. And then I went on to Deloitte, South Africa, after a couple of years, where I was involved on the technical side, consulting, actuarial consulting, but then also after some time, I started getting into management consulting. So effectively advising financial institutions in terms of their strategy. So I did a lot of that in Deloitte, South Africa, as well as Deloitte, East Africa. And then that's when I decided to jump into the murky waters of entrepreneurship. That's about 8 years ago. Is it 8 or so years ago? Full time. Pula was a side hustle, as I always disclose. Now, how did the actuarial profession prepare me as a co-founder and CEO? I think one of the advantages I say that we had, I mean, those who came before me and probably around our time, is we were among the initial, probably the first 10, 20 qualifying actuaries in the country, probably also in the region, if you say that. And qualifying early as the only actuary, usually you would find yourself, you're the only actuary in the company, right? In the insurance company, you're the only qualified actuary. So yes, you're young, you're straight from uni, so 24, 25, but it was a big thing to be the only actuary in the room. And the advantage of it is that you got exposure to strategic business issues. You are in the right room. I found myself at 24 presenting to the board, having conversations with investors, which later became very useful because I remember some of the conversations always I used to have with some of the shareholders at UAP. They would tell me, Thomas, we like the technical stuff and your theories. Tell us, how are we making money? How are we losing money? Like, that's all they cared about. So I helped you to have the owner mentality at very early age, because you're not a cog in the system. You can see the system for what it is. And I think that helped me to have that appreciation of the mindset as an owner or a business, an entrepreneur or a leader, a business leader. The second thing, of course, is the analytical and numbers driven. I think this is typical for the actuarial profession. You learn how to remove emotions from issues, being subjective, busting illusions, and just making decisions using numbers. A very critical skill set as a leader, as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, right? Sometimes you get sucked into things, but it allows you to remove yourself from that. Lastly, I think I would say the qualification has some credibility, gives you credibility. One, it's an international qualification. Most people have this assumption, which is a good assumption. I don't like busting the assumption that because you qualified, you're smart and you're well educated. It's a perception, which I like. I don't mind. I have taken advantage of it. Not sure whether it's 100% accurate, but it has some truths. Just because you can solve a mathematical problem doesn't make you smart, but it's okay. I think the general world thinks you're very smart and you know what you're talking about. That credibility gets you to the right rooms. I don't have the liability of who are you again? What did you do again in school? You don't need all that. You don't need a lot of explanation and trying to justify what you did. I think that helps you, and especially when you're dealing with investors or you're building something new. At least they're starting from the known to the unknown, right? It builds some credibility. I think I would say that those are things that are very hard to get in other professions. If you became an engineer you're probably the 10,000th engineer in the country. So you'll have to go through, that whole journey to get to the right room. If you became a lawyer, I mean, you're just probably the 20th lawyer. So I guess that was an advantage. Yeah.
Yes, thanks for that, Thomas. And I totally get you on the imposter syndrome bit when you started out. I remember actually at UAP, you actually started working there when you were still in university, in sort of
Exactly,
third year.
yes.
So I totally get that. And now that you're sort of co-founder CEO at Pula, I hope you don't only hire actuaries there, but as a CEO with an actuarial background, leading a big group that spans across multiple continents, how has that actuarial background, shaped your leadership at Pula?
Yeah, I think it's primarily one, you think in numbers, you're very like analytical. I don't only hire actuaries, but I think we probably have one of the highest concentration of actuaries. I think probably 10 to 15% of people who work in Pula, if not 20%, have an actuarial background. I think also because agriculture insurance also is very technical. I always say I've done motor insurance, I've done life insurance, I've done all kinds of insurance, but I think agriculture has really tested my technical capabilities because you're building things from scratch and nothing in the actual notes, so to speak. But all the same, I think just that analytical rigor, objectivity in how you approach problems or challenges. And of course, professionalism, right? Like I always say, I think at the beginning, I was technically also the chief actuary of Pula. So I always say anything I signed off against, because we have to sign off against products for filing. So I was also the actuary signing off on that for different countries. So I have to think like we're doing the right thing, right? Because otherwise your license, your practicing licenses. So I think from the beginning, we were sort of building a professional company, not like, a Juakali stand. Like, yeah, so we had to do everything above board because my reputation as a professional, the thing when you think differently when you also think about it. I'm doing this also as a professional, not just as just a business, right? If I was selling mangoes on the streets, I'm not sure I would have, do things, the way I've had to do it. Yeah.
It's great to hear that you've been a professional from the start. And I guess that's what has driven, Pula to where it is right now. And maybe speaking about Pula, Pula has become a recognized leader in agricultural insurance, not just in Africa, but also sort of across the globe. Yourself, you've been recognized, by the New York Times as a 2019 Global Visionary. The Times 100, you're in the Times 100 next in 2024. Speaking about Pula, what inspired its founding, yeah? And what would you say is the core vision that drives your work today at Pula?
Yeah, I think first is my background, of course. Spent 18 years, as I said, my life in the farm. I mean, from coffee picking and planting maize to milking cows. That's what I would do over the weekends and school holidays. So most people, when I tell them this story, they actually think it's a joke. You have been to our home, Jay, I guess.
I've been to your village. I'll back you up on that one, Thomas.
Exactly. So most people think I'm telling this story just as a story. So that's what I grew up doing. Then, of course, training experience joining the insurance industry. I understood the purpose of insurance in terms of safeguarding investments, bringing predictability, so on and so forth. And I could see clearly the gap that was there in the insurance industry. Less than 1% of premiums were agriculture related in an economy that is 30% GDP. So at the time, I remember there was the wave from a strategy perspective. As I said, I started doing strategy when I was very early. So the thinking was around blue ocean strategy. And for me, it was I kept saying, blue ocean strategy is go into agriculture, right? In fact, even while at UAP, we launched one of the first agriculture insurance programs on the continent, Kilimo Salama, which transitioned into Eka Africa, which is actually one of our competitors, which built with my business partner. Hashi was in Syngenta, I was in Pula. So then I caught up the bag of agriculture insurance very early on. This is 2009 and 10. But then also when I chose the career I chose, I think in the village, when you do your exams well, you're supposed to do either engineering or medicine or law. And I remember when I chose the career I chose, my parents were very disappointed in me. And one of the fundamental questions, of course, there was a financial security question, which I had a lot of answers by showing them the actual magazine, pay salaries on the adverts. You know, those
I
those
remember
things
that.
that we
Yes,
used
yes,
always
yes.
to admire, thinking like,
Yes.
I think we used to say they are paid like footballers, right? Um, so besides the financial security question, which I had answers to, the second question for them was, how will this profession help our community? And at the time, our community was the people I grew up in the village. I didn't have an answer for that. So when I came across agriculture insurance, I think I was like, this probably answers that. And then going through my profession in the corporate world, you know, growing up in the village, I think, why did I choose actuarial science? Because I mean, I thought I want to make money, right? It was all running away from poverty at the highest
Yeah.
acceleration and velocity possible, right? Like if I had to say that. But at some point, I think you start looking for something deeper and meaning. So I think while at Deloitte, that just urge became stronger and stronger. And I had no option but just to walk away and go and do something that I felt connected with who I am. So that's what inspired me. Plus, the problem was there. You know, they talk about the ikigai. So the intersection of where your heart is, your passion, what you're good at, insurance. That's what I've done all my life, and what the world needs. So I think,
Yeah.
I would say serendipity or fate would have it that I was meant to do this. Like, not that I designed it, just the gods or whatever you guys, whatever
Yeah.
you call it, like had it that this is how my journey would have ended. I tried to think about another way. I just struggle to see another way. And now in terms of like my vision, what drives my work today is, I think for us, we live for bridging the certainty gap in agriculture, which is the backbone of African economies. Every farmer should have the ability to have predictable incomes, right? The same way you know how much you're going to make in the next 3 to 6 months from your salary. I think the farmer should have that, which allows them to have better planning, optimal decision making. And that's why we have, of course, the agriculture insurance business. We also have the data business, using data to help farmers become better farmers. And then now we have the reinsurance. We just launched Pula, for those probably who don't know, a Bermuda-based reinsurance company. So I think we are in the business of making farmers' incomes predictable, and which allows them to invest better, improve incomes of farmers, and generally just grow African economies. I always say that no economy in the world has ever developed without fixing its agriculture. It always starts with agricultural revolution, then industrial revolution, then information age. And this whole trickle down economy, I don't know, leapfrogging, a lot of English that has been used, but the truth of the matter, you have to go back to fundamentals and fix, because 50-60% of your people are employed there. So we have to think about agriculture, and that's what, as Pula, we wake up every day thinking about.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. And I think I echo a lot with what you said. You have to start bottom up, starting with fixing the basics. Before.
I didn't use the word bottom up. You know, that's politics.
But indeed,
but I get you. Yes.
Yeah, your journey and story, I think, has been really inspiring,
Yeah.
and I hope many of us on the call can draw inspiration from that, and that it's actually possible. It's actually possible to become an actuary. It's actually possible to actually make a change, or make an impact even as an actuary. And in case anyone has a question, feel free to start dropping the same on the chat box. Will be looking at those as we continue. We'll also have a Q&A session at the end. Thomas, as part of my next questions, I really want to focus on the actuary as an innovator, and you've really set the stage there, as you've mentioned from the beginning, even from early on when you started even engaging with senior leaders, executives, you even challenging the normal. Yeah, and even at Pula at the moment, you essentially rewrote how agriculture insurance is being done. At Pula, you are essentially not just within the agriculture insurance space, you're also in the agri-insurance tech space, yeah, by extension. How have you used technology, whether it's, remote sensing, satellite data, mobile platforms to fundamentally change how, Pula designs and distributes agriculture insurance products to these underserved farmers?
Yeah, so I always say a business and the world of capitalism, it just comes down to whether it's blockchain, AI, it comes down to two things. Value at what cost? So anything else, someone is just giving you English. So for me, the way I look at it is from a cost and sustainability perspective. I think insurance technology has enabled us to make the unit economics work, like underwriting, claims assessment, the traditional way, which is visiting the farms, going to value a car, whether is it in good condition, all that. And then at the end of, if there's an accident or an event, you have to go do the physical assessment. You cannot do that in agriculture for smallholder farmers because, on average, we receive about $10. So within that $10, you have to fit all your delivery and distribution costs, right? So leveraging on remote sensing for claims assessment as an example, which makes it cheaper, using machine learning for underwriting and risk assessment, mobile technology for origination and registration of farmers. There are things that I always say that we are standing on the shoulder of giants, because if there was no mobile technology, I'm not sure whether Pula would sort of exist, right? So all those things needed to come before us and to enable us to build what we have built. Now, when it comes to value, I think two parts of value are just what technology has enabled us. The first one is speed, right? Insurance is always about claim, right? And how fast you pay that claim. And for agriculture specifically, it's very time sensitive. In some cases, you have back-to-back seasons. Like the farmers have 1 month or 1.5 months from one season to the next. So you have to process your claims fast to enable the farmer actually to use that money for the subsequent season. In some cases, especially we have our replanting or germination insurance. The farmer has a few days to replant so that again they don't miss the full season. And we've had to process claims within 48 hours, right? I think without technology, that's not possible, right? If you have so that also enables us to deliver value to farmers. The other element of value is ability to deliver last mile value customized to each individual farmer, right? We can send a very customized message to a farmer. You should plant this time. This is explaining to them the insurance cover you have as a farmer, which improves trust, right? So we have digital extension and farmers, that engagement enables farmers to see value even before the claim comes, and which improves trust. So I think I look at it from, as I said, cost and value. So reducing our cost, increasing the value to the beneficiary.
That's really good, and given that you really want to add that value to the farmer, that small scale farmer, it's important, and indeed you play within that sort of impact space. Yours is not just for you to get financial value, but you play a critical role in the social and economic transformation, particularly within that agriculture insurance space. My next question is in terms of that impact. Yeah, you sort of within sort of our insurance space, we keep talking about premiums and claims. Beyond this, beyond premiums and claims, how does Pula measure the real world impact of the products that you actually, offer to these smallholder farmers?
So I think a bit of it is something that actually caught me. I think when I saw the data and on it was very shocking. A concept of the bounce back period, like how long does a farmer take to get back to their original position? after a shock or say a drought or a flood, right? What does it mean? If the farmer was, say, harvesting 50 bags of maize and making this amount of money, after then a drought hits and suddenly they have zero. Fair point. But then how long does it take for them now to get back to that level? Without insurance, research has shown it takes about 3 to 5 years. So meaning every time a shock happens, the farmer is taken backwards 5 years, right? Why? Because they don't have money even to plant the subsequent season, right? Because like to invest in the farm, right? So they have to start rebuilding their capital or their savings to be able to, exactly, to get back to the same place they were in. And with insurance, that reduces to 1 year. So one of the things you track importantly is that bounce back period, which allows for sustainability, right? The second part is increased incomes for farmers. So farmers are very interesting people. Like, as I always say, farming is like gambling, right? For those who do sport betting. Like if you're not sure whether your team will win, I think last time I checked, Jay, you were in Arsenal.
I stopped following Arsenal.
So when you're betting and you're not sure about your team or the team you are supporting, you just put very little money because you're right. So the same thing with farming. Farmers are very like smart financially, right? If the risk is high, they put very little. So it means they don't invest optimally on their farms without proper risk mitigation systems. So then their incomes, of course, are reduced. So one of the things we measure is the percentage increase in incomes for farmers. And research again, this is probably, I think, one of the surveys showed that insurance increases incomes for farmers by 82%. So why? Because farmers are able to invest without worrying about losing their money. And this is something actually I experienced when I was growing up. I remember I would go talk to my mom about this new improved hybrid, this fertilizer that will make yields better. And my parents would ask me, what if it does not rain? We've put all this money there. How will we pay school fees? So you see, so they can't take that risk. You can't afford that risk, right? So that's a second element of how we think about impact. And lastly is around increased investment in agriculture. I'll give you an example. We've protected over 2 billion investments, and we estimate about 60-70% of those investments will not have been made in agriculture. On many occasions, we've seen investors who say we'll only put in money, say to a credit institution when there is insurance, right? Because our whole portfolio can be wiped out if you're giving loans to farmers. So ours also is to crowd in. Our role is to crowd in investments in agriculture. And for us, that's impactful. Why? Because if there's more investment in agriculture, farmers are making more, there's food security, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to hear the impact that is sort of beyond the farmer, that sort of enables investments into the space, into the agricultural space. That's really inspiring. Within that space, within your space, and within our wider space as actuaries within sort of the actuarial insurance space, our objective is usually around inclusion and impact. We keep talking about increasing penetration and the like. From where you sit, and also for you now reaching out, particularly to those small scale, smallholder farmers, what are your biggest non-technical hurdles? We are actuaries, but now let's speaking to the non-technical hurdles, around trust, literacy, and distribution that you've faced in, taking that insurance to people who have never even heard about insurance or bothered about insurance before.
I think the first one is trust. I think farmers they've been sold a lot of hoaxes, not from their politicians to the people supply them seed, fertilizer. They are told stories that never happen. The few times they've probably experienced insurance, it ended up in a disaster. So that trust in that with farmers as well as the ecosystem is a challenge that we always have to fight. And how we fight or deal with it is working with people who already are working with farmers. They build that trust. So these are the cooperatives, the governments, just partners that already work with farmers and have built that trust. And then, of course, delivering value, right? In terms of if it's a digital extension, if it's payment of claims, you have to do it within a very fast, as fast as possible. The second, of course, just typical emerging market problem is infrastructure, right? Some of these rural areas don't have network, mobile technology, so we have to build our systems to have offline capabilities. So they have all these. I think I always tell people that if you really want to know Kenya, just get out of the city. Not just Kenya, but if you want to know Malawi, get out of Lilongwe or Blantyre. If you want to know Zambia, get out of Lusaka. So when you go, you realize, I think it's not as you probably might think. Another element is access, right? I think we've had cases because of floods, rivers, whatever the bridges have been sort of wiped away because of rains. Our teams using handcrafted boats to access the farmers, right? Like, I mean, I have many photos of or swimming to get on the other side of the river so they can access farmers. Of course, infrastructural challenges, nothing different from most businesses trying to build anything in rural Africa or rural emerging markets. Security is a big issue. Nigeria, we've in an area where there is Boko Haram, right? So you have to figure out how. I mean, I have kidnapping insurance. Like when I travel to those, or you're in Pakistan, you have to have armored vehicles to go to some areas. I mean, not once, not twice, I've been told, oh, remember, Thomas, that place you're in last, 50 people have been killed. The place I was in last week, right? Like, so it's sometimes it's a bit of a problem. Ethiopia has had wars in some places that we are working in. So I think, look, I mean, we've had cases, some of our people who have had to change their names because some of these are tribal clan wars. So if you have a certain name think of post-election violence and you're of one part of the country and you're stuck. The post-election violence has broken out and you're in a different part of the country, and your second name is not what it's supposed to be. So you get into trouble, right? I think the other thing is around legacy insurance attitude. I think, look, as insurance people, like we have, if it's not working as it worked before, all these questions I hear, even at the very beginning, I did engage when we were setting up Pula, some of investors or shareholders or business people in the insurance industry about thinking about investing in Pula. And they had a very interesting question. Where has this been done in the world, right? Like, it's like, but that's a point of innovation, right? Like, I think as people in the insurance world, and even actuaries, have this attitude of, we only want to work with what works, right? Like, so that which has been proven. So skepticism to new things, single year view, like people want, just because there's been a bad year, then it's agriculture insurance is not profitable just because there was 1 year drought here. And not overreacting to one event. I mean, not once, not twice, I've seen reinsurers, just because there has been a drought, they want to triple the premiums, which like, that's not mathematics, right? You would imagine reinsurance companies or actuaries in the reinsurance companies are mathematically oriented, but they act out of emotion. So I think, anyway, those are battles we fight in every time.
I believe that's what led you at Pula to start your own insurance company, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Good, very, very, very good perspectives, and it's really inspiring and encouraging to all of us. I'll move to sort of the next segment before sort of welcome questions and answers, and this is sort of more of us as actuaries going beyond the traditional actuarial work that we do, looking beyond the traditional models that we work with, and really focus on sort of what are these critical analytical skills that we require for the changing world, for the evolving sector, which you've very well applied at Pula and within your industry. And the first one is on sort of emerging risk modeling, which is quite novel. You've applied it so well within the agriculture space. The agricultural risk space involves complex variables. You have your climate change, you have your economic factors, you have those local conditions, the hyper-local conditions that you have to deal with when insuring those smallholder farmers. How must risk modeling and actual pricing evolve to be effective and sustainable in this dynamic environment?
Yeah, so I think, look, so interestingly, I think as you correctly put it, like agriculture insurance or risk modeling needs to be very localized, right? Maize, risk pricing maize in Western Kenya is very different from Eastern Kenya. The variety is different, the environment is different. It's unlike a car insurance, whether it's in Nairobi or Western, it's the same, whether it's a Toyota or a Mercedes. The difference is not neither here nor there. So the variables become many. Mother Nature keeps changing its mood, right? And it's the cycles. Just so it gets very complex very fast. So much so that I remember, I think probably in our second or third year, we had these spreadsheets that started crashing, right? Like you keep adding variables, and then before you know it, you just can't take it anymore, right? So then we entered a very ambitious project to automate and build a pricing engine, right? That you can add as many as thousands of variables. And then also you can have capability to add AI on top of it, right? So I remember at one point saying that I think at that time we probably had 6 or 7 actuaries in the team. We wanted to grow 10x. Now it was like we need to get to 60 actuaries. Like that makes no sense. So we had to go a different route and like build. I remember one time having an argument, one of the actuaries saying that, actuarial work is very complicated. It cannot be automated. I think, the egos we have as actuaries, anything can be automated. So we had to build an automated end-to-end a system because you see, it brings a lot of objectivity into it. We call it Pula Insurance Engine. Which just uses all these variables. It's as AI, machine learning. In fact, I would say, like, I think the future, like I remember when doing that, I just could, after experiencing it, because something that was taking an actuary two weeks to finish, suddenly you could do it within 48 hours. And that's when I realized the future is AI, because man, it just changed everything. So now actuaries, their job now changes to explaining these results, improving the system, so on and so forth. I think that's a future. And of course, the whole element of just adapting to what is changing, right? Because you have to constantly just pulling data from different parts of the sources of data to just update your pricing models, right? Now, I think as actuaries, we must embrace technology and especially in terms of for risk modeling, but not build a black box. You have to understand how it's working. Of course, at the moment, I'm not very much involved in that, but like you gotta, yeah, you gotta embrace technology and just do something else. I've seen actuaries who are very stuck in, I'm the one who has to do these calculations. Man, like if it can be automated, automate and then do something else. You'll always have something else to do, yeah. So I think in a dynamic environment, it's very difficult to do things manually. Like it's just prone to error, too many variables. Yeah, so you got to think about building a digital actuary. And I'm super excited actually in the new world of agentic models, where actually you have an AI agent that makes all such subjective decisions that an actuary would make. I would not be surprised you'll have a digital actuary for hire one day. Like basically you're hiring a digital actuary that has been built by another organization and comes and is your chief actuary. It's like this country, I can't remember which country hired a minister who is an AI agent. It's an AI, but it's a minister, right? So I think that's a future. And then the chief actuary just manages the digital actuaries, right? I think that's a future.
Yes, indeed. I think you emphasize the point that actuaries must be adaptable, must adapt. There's a lot of value that actuaries offer beyond what they currently traditionally do. And through the use of technology, AI, there's a lot more that an actuary can actually do. And I think that's also a story for another. I think as Yvonne Mukami, you probably have another session to discuss technology and the impacts on actuarial work. The other question I had within this segment of developing critical skills is beyond the technical skills, the skills beyond the model itself. We have many, I believe a majority of the people in the room at the moment are sort of more students. They are well on their way into the actuarial profession. They're probably exploring actuarial as a profession. For actuaries who want to enter sort of that agriculture, insurance space, the insurtech space, what are those non-technical skills that you'd advise them to look out for that would allow them to transition seamlessly from a technical analyst, essentially, to a CEO like yourself, or a strategic leader like yourself?
I think what I'm about to say, I never thought I would ever say it. The first and the most important skill is sales. The ability to sell your ideas, the ability to influence people, the ability to close a deal, the ability to convince someone to go to their pocket and give you money, right? That skill, in fact, if I had to write the actuarial profession, there should be 3 or 4 units on sales. Because you see, we keep talking about low penetration of insurance. We have to think about to sell what we have, right? So building that skills is critical. And looking at my journey, I think we have all these stereotypes that we've told ourselves. Oh, I'm an introvert. I'm good with numbers, not people. So then you end up burying yourself behind the computer in your spreadsheets. Just get out of your comfort zone. Those are stories you've told yourself. Anything can be, even for me, man, to be honest, I got into sales by accident when I was at Deloitte. You get in these consulting firms, Jay, you know that by now. At some point, you become, all your eyes a sales guy, right?
Yeah.
You really look at numbers. So anyway, I think for me, first is sales. Very critical. The second thing is the humility to be a perpetual learner and not a knower. So the problem also, there's something I call the actuarial ego. Just shed that off. You don't know what you don't know, right? So the ability to unlearn what you think you know. Most things are hypotheses. So you test, disapprove, continue, and learn. Like the world is more complex than you think you learned in school or you learned in the books, right? So that humility to be a perpetual learner. I think the third thing is to understand decision making in an environment of uncertainty, like no perfect data. Because the thing, once you enter a space that has never been done before, which is innovation and entrepreneurship, like there's no rule books, there's no models that have been proven. So a lot of there's no data, right? You're dealing with a lot of uncertainty. And one of the things I've learned the hard way, I would say this is something that it's a disadvantage of being an actuary. No solutions or perfect solutions or optimal solutions exist. In fact, there's nothing like a solution to a complex problem. Anyone who tells you this is a solution, they are lying to you. It's just trade-offs. Like if you choose this is what will happen. If you choose this is what will happen. Just as understanding those trade-offs and take the path and have a willingness to undo that path once, facts come to the table. And I think it's counterintuitive to actuarial training, right? All our exams had answer solutions, but that's not how the world works, right? I think that ability to make decisions in an uncertain environment, that's critical. Another part which is different from sales. People think sales is just this, but relationships. I mean, like, wow, especially if you want to get into the business world, relationships are so critical. Your reputation, how people view you, that just matters a lot at all levels. And you need to be able to relate and connect with a minister or a president, and in the same day connect with a farmer, like that ability, right? So because you have to understand how the minister thinks, how the farmer thinks, how just different. It allows you have to have the full picture to make decisions. And not everything is just objective. Some things, people are human beings, we are emotional, right? So that understanding how they are looking at things from their perspective, not necessarily the right or the wrong perspective, and not judge, just understand. They say the highest form of intelligence is observing without judgment, right? So if a minister is looking at things this way, you observe. I see, especially as Kenyans, I see a lot of judgment in how we look at things, like a lot of judgment, but you don't know what you don't know, right? Just, right? Things are more complex than you think. And finally, there's something I call the concept of being tall, right? What do I mean? Have your head in the skies and your feet on the ground, right? So you need to be able to dream, visualize, imagine the impossible that looks logically not possible, but at the same time, be grounded in facts and realities. So separate your dreams and reality. Don't confuse the two. But doesn't mean you don't dream. You can dream, but just know it's a dream. So, some people think their dream is reality, right? Yeah. So I think those are the things that I would say are very critical, just beyond the technical skills. They're important, but these are the elements, the soft side of things is as important. Yeah.
Great. That's really interesting, and particularly on the last point on being tall. Being grounded in your beliefs and realities, but also having that view of having that vision, which is actually very interesting. So yeah, that question largely covered the skills beyond the model, the non-technical skills, but we also have now, and I believe there are also a couple of actuaries in the room who are now, they're really inspired by what you've done in terms of solving, so large-scale societal challenges. At Pula, you don't just offer insurance. You're solving large-scale societal challenges on food security and, improving the economic well-being of farmers in particular. For those insurance professionals, even the actuaries who are in the room, who are looking to now, who want to start applying their skills now to such large-scale societal challenges, climate change, social security, food security. What would you advise them? Where should they start, Thomas?
I think it's a good question. Where do you start? I think one of the rules I always say, I applied always, is don't live 1 year 50 times. If people live lives, but if you ask, their careers is like 1 year times 50 or times 30. Like what you are doing last year is the same thing you're doing this year and the same thing you're going to do next year. I'm not sure that's the right way to do things. And then you sit in your comfort zone for so long, right? So evolve, stretch yourself, just go do something new, right? Even within your job, right? You can do something else, right? So I think I always had this rule when I was working early on, is that my job is to make myself irrelevant as fast as possible. Why? Because once I make myself irrelevant, I have enough time to do the next thing. But some people look at it the other way. Like my job is to make myself relevant. So I'm the only one who knows where those models are. I'm the only one who knows. Then what you're gonna happen, you won't grow because you'll just be doing the same thing over and over again. So you have to have that ability to just let go, share whatever you know with the people you're working with, then empower them, allows you to go do the next thing, right? I always say, and I hope no one from Deloitte is here, that my last year in Deloitte, like 90% of the work was being done by my team, which allowed me to do other things, right? I had delegated everything, still achieving my targets, right? So I think there's power in that. There's power in saying, okay, I'm doing this today, but I'm gonna build the next people who are next to do what I am doing. Today in Pula, every day I always think, now this year I am doing this. Now, who will do what I am doing today next year, right? And I start just empowering. This will give me power and ability next year to do something else, right? Because they've already done my job. They're doing my job. And I think secondly, and most importantly, is just be ambitious, right? Like I think push boundaries. I always say, if people don't think your ambitions are crazy, you're not dreaming enough. Of course, your ambitions can get you into trouble. They have many times, but if you don't get into trouble, then I'm not sure whether life is worth living. Yes, so push boundaries. Just think big. Yeah, there's a lot of problems, and I always say Africa is the last frontier. There's a lot of problems to solve on the continent, and it's an opportunity. Every problem is an opportunity to be solved. Yeah. So see, just ambition is free.
Yes, that's really thought provoking, and I know a number of us in the room are already, I've had that. Don't live 1 year 50 times. Yeah, that's really.
Just don't make it 51.
yeah. So yeah, I think at this point you can get questions from the audience. Feel free to drop your questions on the chat. I think you can also raise your hands, I think, and we can give you the opportunity to ask questions. I believe you can do that. Yvonne Mukami. Maybe I can start with the sort of some of the questions that we have on the chat. And for Thomas, I'll just give you a breather there, so that I think this is more to the AADA team. Of course, the first one is from Chima. Great effort to the AADA team. Guaranteeing food security through insurance and actuarial science is a concept that actually began in Africa. Over the years, actuarial practitioners have been at the back end of risk management. It is interesting today you're coming forward. Great effort. So, but I think the question is, how is AADA positioning itself to take the campaign for insurance and actuarial education and awareness to the locals? That is the farmers and the young people in rural areas. So maybe Yvonne, you can come in for that, or Mukami.
Well, hi Jay, hi everyone. I hope you can hear me and us. So thank you so much for moderating, Jay. And I don't know how we got the questions that are supposed to go to Thomas, but this is it's a great challenge, and I think how AADA has been set up or is positioning itself. So I think there are a couple of things in the question: the campaign for insurance, the campaign for education, actual education, and then the campaign for awareness. So maybe I'll tackle one or two, and obviously the co-founders can come in. I think yesterday is also here. So actual education is easy. So ADA is set up to establish resources for actuarial students and the actuarial profession across Africa. There are 4 pillars that ADA is founded on, and you can see all that on our website. But mentorship, educational development, which is really sort of equipping our universities. Tutorials, obviously, we've discussed a lot about actuarial exams. We had the feedback to introduce sales as units, but we definitely support the tutorials. So ADA is definitely well positioned to support actuarial education. Now, the issue of insurance and awareness, we believe that actuaries really have a good understanding of insurance, which is quite a complex subject. Most of us here work in the insurance industry. So we believe by growing the profession and growing actuaries who are well-rounded, who are mentored, who understand the soft skills and issues, and like the session we're having today, to really position what the actual sort of skill set can grow to be, means that we can then influence the insurance industry and obviously increase awareness to our end users. But that's a secondary level effect. So I think ADA is really well positioned for the actual education sort of question. But we got established last year. We're still in the early stages, and then that's what we're doing at the moment. But I'll ask Yesidee and Yvonne to also add in their things.
Yeah, no, I think Mokami covered it well. I think maybe also just to re-emphasize that, we're here to help train you so that you can do exactly what you've asked. So I think the question was for Chima. Chima had the question. So we're here to try and help give you the resources to do exactly that, because us as ADA by ourselves, we actually won't be able to go out and do that. We've decided to focus on, we're training you to go and train the masses, right? And go reach the masses. And hopefully, as Thomas has recommended with the sales aspect, we'll also be able to get that in and make sure you have the tools you need to go out and make an impact.
I think they've covered it all. I think I would just add one or two things to say. If we get the products right, which I think actuaries tend to be central to, then we have something to go to the farmers with. The insurance companies have something to go to the farmers with, and are able to be relevant. So if we help the insurance companies in order to make themselves relevant to various sectors of the economy, then that's another way in which actuaries are helping to promote, to develop the economy and the insurance industry as itself. So I think it doesn't have to be a one-to-one. It's more or less, you might be pushing other people, you might be training the people you work with, you might be telling them why your pricing makes sense, why your products make sense, and that in and of itself all adds up together in order for us to build the economy.
Great.
Hopefully the next question will be for Thomas.
Yeah, Yvonne, and I don't know. I think I'm going to skip your question on AI. I think we've agreed we'll have another fireside chat for that.
No, I wanted, because we actually get that question from young people, so I thought it would be nice to hear his views.
Okay, so yeah, Thomas, yeah, for young actuaries who may be nervous about AI taking over their careers, yeah, what do you have to say to them?
Look, and maybe before Thomas comes, maybe because I know when he was speaking, he talked about these digital actuaries who I think the chief actuary will use. So I think he sort of said that they may be taken over. But I guess from where I sit, we had this discussion about whether you will trust, an AI to sign an actuarial report and to be the one making the subjective decisions like end to end. So, but yes, Thomas, please go ahead.
Look, I think I don't look at technology as taking my job. I always look at it as a tool, right? Like let's did calculators take the job of mathematicians? I'm not sure. It just depends. If the mathematician was so stuck in doing it manually, then of course, yes. But I think the way I look at technology is a tool, right? You just need to get ahead of it. Like if you're ahead of it and use it, right? I think it's an actuary who will build a digital actuary, right? Like it won't be someone outside the profession, right? So like this conversation has been happening over and over again. In Europe during the agricultural revolution, the question was, what will happen to our farmers after the tractors came to be, right? Some farmers just started hiring tractors and buying tractors. They didn't disappear, right? So I think, look, the point I make here, and it comes down to being a learner. I think in a dynamic environment, you just have to be ahead of the curve. I always challenge myself. I'm probably every day I have to use AI. Like I just learn something new about AI every single day. I'm very disappointed in, especially if you're young, and I always ask, okay, so tell me and this is the typical question I ask most people during interviews or anything. Tell me the most recent, most impactful thing you've ever done with AI. If it's just Googling, my friend, I'm not sure, or asking it weird, stupid questions, like nothing against that. All I'm saying is, like, just think about how can use it to solve your problems, right? Including in the office, right? There's something we are trying in Pula at the moment. We are testing. So think of it, it's a tool, an internal tool, right? One of the things is onboarding, right? For instance, now, people, when someone new comes, you have someone asking very basic question according to you, but it's a good question anyway. You can imagine having a Pula employee who is an AI bot that can go to all systems, all material, and answer your question. Right? That's an employee, by the way, if you think about it. It will be Pula's employee, the last employee, right? Of course, without a payroll, without a salary, right? Because someone was doing that job, right? For me, that's beautiful, right? Because that can help people to get up to speed about the business as fast as possible. So I think for me, it's not about how will AI take my job. It's how can I use it to be a better actuary? How can I use it to get ahead of the game? Like, I will not be surprised that one of the actuaries, young actuaries, come up with a way to do actuarial evaluations much faster and makes Jay not to have a job. That's what it is. In fact, if I was younger, I would be happy. I would be like, okay, now how do I take Jay's job? Because you see, Thomas's job for that matter, or Mukami's job. You know, us now, we are old folks. I know, I'm sure Jay, Mukami, us now, we are old, right? So if I was young, that's how I would be thinking. The next game, like, because the thing is, all I know is probably somewhere written somewhere, and the AI knows it. So I would build an actual. So if I come to an interview, I'm not coming alone. I'm coming me and my AI bot. So I have all the experience that Jay has, Mukami has, Thomas has. So I'm coming with that. Then you're better off than me, right? So anyway, all I say, it's a tool. It's just another tool. You just have to think hard about how to use it. Yeah.
Great, Yvonne. I think Thomas has really captured it very well. I think it calls on us to really be adaptable and embrace AI as an enabler. You know, always use it as a learning opportunity, automate as much as we can, and build value out of that. Yeah. So that's a very good perspective there, Thomas. Huh? We have one more question from the chat from Stephen Kihuga on technology, still on technology. According to the Moore's law, which technology advancement do you envision will have the most impact on agriculture insurance? That's, I think, really broad-based. Sorry, just another. It's a very broad question.
It's a broad question, and when it comes to technology and which one will work, which one will not work, I don't have a crystal ball. I think the way I always say and look at these things is comes down to what adds most value, right? And agriculture insurance is a small piece of it, right? Remember, we have a lot of challenges in just agriculture on the continent. Farmers, I mean, the day and the life of a farmer is just a very complex thing. And I think using I always say, and this has been always my argument, that so the first agricultural revolution was mechanization, right, which enabled farmers to do more with, or actually, let's say, farm more land, right, with the same labor. And then the second one was the green revolution, which is effectively in Asia and Latin America, which is basically better seed, better inputs, improved seed and fertilizer, which just changed the face of agriculture. And the last, or I believe the next revolution will be information related, which is effectively enable that smallholder farmer to have the same amount of information as a large-scale farmer. It's what people call precision farming, effectively, to optimize their farms. And but that will be delivered at even smallholder farm level, right? Not you don't need to invest heavily to make those better decisions, which will improve the productivity of smallholder farmer. Now, for me, the reason I've sort of I don't like looking at things just from an insurance perspective. Why? Because remember, at the end of the day, it's about the farmer. And insurance is one of the things they consume, right? So I like taking a step back and thinking about it from, what does the farmer care about? The farmer cares about more money in their pocket. So the question becomes, what technology will enable them to have more money in their pocket? And that technology is what actually will also change agriculture insurance, because the thing is, the more money the farmer has, the more they're able to consume insurance, so on and so forth. Otherwise, if you just think of it from just the lenses of insurance, you miss a lot. You miss a lot of the dynamics at play. It's a complex. It's much more complex than just insurance. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you have to look at the entire ecosystem, yeah, and sort of what opportunities are there to optimize and improve that the whole thing for the benefit of the farmer, for resilience. Yeah, thanks so much for that. Just to check if there are any more questions. I do not see any more questions on the chat. I also don't see any hands up. So if there are no further questions, I think we can close with this. There's one last question, I think, just to close out the whole conversation, as we thank you, Thomas, for taking us through this. This is from Keith Pendago student at Daystar University in Kenya. So Thomas, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, that would also be valuable for us as we grow in the actuarial profession, what would it be? 20 years ago, if you were to give, 20 years ago, you're starting university, what advice would you give yourself?
So I'm gonna tell you what I would advise myself. Now, whether it's relevant for your case, I don't know. So one of the things which I also see with young kids today is a lot of worry about the future, right? Like concerns, everything new, what is changing, will I make it? All those questions I used to have the same, and I was like worried about a lot of things. I think it shall work out eventually in so interesting ways, as long as just do your best, right? Work hard. It's just the simple fundamentals. Work hard, keep learning, keep challenging yourself. You don't have to have all the answers. And somehow the universe has a way of just things panning out, and of course dream, right? So I think don't concern yourself too much with that which you can't control. Just do what you believe is your best, and leave the rest to the universe. I think I have seen a lot of anxieties in the young people, which I also had. I don't know about my fellow old people in this room, Jay Kosgei.
I don't recall having anxieties that time.
Sorry?
I don't recall being anxious, Thomas.
Yes,
but,
I was always anxious. So I think things will work out. Just focus on the fundamentals. Don't take shortcuts. It's nothing like shortcuts. It's just the simple things of hard work. Do your best. Keep learning. Yeah. And then the rest things will play out. Yeah. I can see
Great.
Melosi is here. Hi, Melosi. How are you? It's been a long, long time.
Yeah, Thomas, sorry, I still quite early in the West Coast. I'm just enjoying the conversation. So thank you so much.
Good. I think it's time. I have to dash to my next meeting, unfortunately.
Yes. No worries. I think the recording will be available. So let us end the great conversation there and say it's the start of mini with probably Thomas, but also to say it's one of a series of minis that we're doing. So thank you, Thomas, and thank you, Jay, and thank you, everyone. I will just hand over to Yvonne to take us through some announcements and to close the session. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And we're very inspired by all of that, and definitely not planning to do 1 year 50 times. So we'll be trying some new stuff, yes, and evolving and stretching ourselves. But yes, thank you very much, Thomas and Jay. Thomas, if you have to leave, don't worry, you can go ahead. Yes, so just in terms of a few announcements. So I see we have some of our mentors here, which is wonderful. Thanks for joining. So we actually do have a coaching session for our mentors on October 21st with Marjorie and Gwenya. So we're looking forward to that. If you are a mentor, you should have received that invite directly to your inbox. So please pay attention, attend, and also if you have any items you want Marjorie to cover, please let us know by the end of next week. And then secondly, we have our next Fireside Chat, which will be on November 5th. So please mark your calendars for that. I believe it is 1 p.m. WAT, but as in West Africa time. But please mark your calendars for that, and we look forward to that. We are going to have our guests from North Africa. So we're actually looking forward to, we're circling the continent and looking forward to that interaction as well. And then lastly, as usual, we are working on a few other items in the background. Not ready to be announced yet, but we're planning them. So please follow us on LinkedIn and make sure you have the updates as they are announced. So that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you very much. And thanks for sharing the contact. So you have our email address, contact@ada.africa. We're always open to suggestions, website, as well as the LinkedIn channels. So thanks everybody for joining and have a good day. We'll see you on November 5th and October 21st for the mentors. Bye for now.